We spent a lot of time this week opening up the scandals that are surrounding the Biden administration right now, really diving deep, not just with the IRS whistleblowers, but of course that 1023 form that's now been revealed, showing potentially that the president was offered millions of dollars in bribe money. Also, the secondary scandal there is what exactly did the FBI or the Justice Department do with that, especially considering President Trump faced impeachment regarding those exact issues. They had exculpatory evidence. There's certainly evidence that would have aided in the president's defense when he was being impeached. They did nothing with it. What is that all about exactly? And are these stories sticking? Let's bring in one of our favorite journalists out there, David Marcus. You see his byline all over the place. He belongs to no one. He's the people's journalist. He's David Marcus. Hey, Dave, thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Thank- Thanks for having me, Larry.
So, you feel it. I know you've written about it. You see it in social media. And I know that when you engage in media, you can sense from readers, listeners, viewers, people are so frustrated because they see these hearings. They see Republicans hitting the podium. They see them firing off angry letters, but they keep saying the same thing. What are you going to do about it? What can be done about it as we see these scandals play out before our eyes?
It's a great question. And look, I think you hit the nail on the head. For me, the biggest piece of information, and there's been some whoppers that we've gotten since Republicans took over the House, is the allegation on this form of direct bribery to Joe Biden. Because as you said, the FBI had that during impeachment. I mean, that piece of evidence alone would have just blown the first impeachment efforts against Trump completely out of the water. And so, why didn't we see it? Well, it wasn't the FBI that was impeaching, right? It was Congress. And so, well, how do these things work? I think the big answer here, and you're starting to hear this from Ron DeSantis and other Republicans, is that this idea that the DOJ just operates completely on its own with like no oversight from anybody so that it can be independent. We have to be done with that because the Department of Justice just has not earned the right to have that kind of situation anymore. They need oversight from Congress and they need oversight from a Republican White House.
You know, I was a guest speaker at a happy hour downtown DC yesterday. It was at Hillsdale College's DC campus, and it was specifically for young conservative professionals aged 21 to 30 who are all working either at think tanks or on the Hill, about 300, 400 of them, David. And I said to them, and it may have sounded provocative to them, but I said, listen, you guys need to get your graduate degrees here at Hillsdale. You need to continue in the business here, and you need to get jobs in the government because we're not getting rid of the deep state. What we need is conservatives to run the deep state. It's not going anywhere. So we might as well get in there and make the deep state work for us for once. I mean, that's where I am at this point. Am I too cynical?
No, I think you're exactly right, and I think it goes well beyond the deep state. I think that this is true of our universities, and we're seeing efforts in Florida to try to actually diversify the teachers in our universities so that it's not just, wokeness all day long from everyone. I think we
Yeah.
see it in entertainment, where we need to have more conservatives working at movie studios and as directors and screenwriters, if we ever had screenwriters again. But yeah, in all of these institutions, but yes, very importantly, in the government itself, we need more conservatives. And it's not, it can be a heavy lift because it's not that kind of public sector job is not necessarily the one that's most appealing to a person with conservative sensibilities.
Right. 100% true. That's been our downfall is that most conservatives approach their professional lives wanting to work in, the capitalist world, not as a government bureaucrat. And by the way, we parents, when we're raising our kids, we don't make them aspire to become a public servant working in the Justice Department or in the EPA. We tell them go out into the private sector and make a lot of money. But look what's happened under our noses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one other thing that I might say that is maybe reason for some hope is that I do feel like the Ivy League hegemony over the deep state is, and just the government in general, is starting to break down a little bit, maybe in part because places like Harvard and Yale just aren't putting out the type caliber
Yeah.
graduates that they used to. But I do think that a broader number of sort of state schools and southern schools and places like Hillsdale are producing more of the leaders in our government, and that's something that would be really good to see.
Listen,
And
as you
Kevin
look at
McCarthy
how
went to
this
community college, right? Say
Yeah.
Kevin McCarthy
Oh,
went to community college. I wouldn't mind having some more smart guys or gals who went to community college in our government.
as the 2024 presidential nomination process ramps up, we're about a month away from the first debate now. This issue and how to fix it, how to address it, how to drain the swamp, whatever you want to say, this should be a very important issue for most Republican voters. The question is, who's got the right plan to do it right, and who's the right person to be able to actually have the cojones to do it? And it looks like it's coming down between Trump and DeSantis. What's your perspective on this?
I think that's right. I think obviously in all of this, the tricky thing for DeSantis is not only that Trump remains popular among Republicans, but that Trump is the center of this deep state abuse story. So there's really no way for DeSantis to talk about it without talking about the extent to which Trump is a victim in all of this. I think that's
Yeah.
true of Vivek Ramaswamy as well, who's promised to dismantle much of the deep state. It's much easier said than done, but I think the one thing that DeSantis has going for him is that he has been effective in Florida in doing some of this stuff, and he really ought to talk about that an awful lot.
And let me throw an idea out there that I haven't heard discussed much. I've been sort of musing about it. Most people think, well, Trump's got the best message here because he's had to experience it. He's been the victim of it. What if DeSantis or Ramaswamy or Tim Scott came in and said, listen, when Trump comes out and says he wants to drain the swamp and fire all these people and turn the Justice Department upside down, it looks like he's just doing it to save his own butt, or it can be interpreted that way. I'm going to go in and do it not to save myself, but to save Trump and to save the American people. That may be a better argument.
It could be. I do think the Trump counter to that will be what he always says, which is that they're coming after me because I stand in between them and you. And
Yeah.
I think, for example, this week we saw in Michigan that some people were charged with felonies for being, fake electors or whatever it was, because I, I assume, sincerely thought that what they were doing was legal and proper and all this stuff. And so, that is an example where it's not just Trump they're going after; they're going
Great
after
point.
relatively normal people. So, but I think you make a point. I think that there is a dance to be done there. I think it's just
You
a
can do it.
delicate one.
Yeah, no, I think a gifted politician could do it. Listen, just about a minute left here, but I'm sure you saw this rollout of the No Labels Party. They're trying to roll out Joe Manchin, Larry Hogan. They always do this. As oh, you hate the candidates for the Republicans and Democrats. Here's the third way. I have no doubt there will be a third party candidate. Who do you think that helps or hurts in the general election?
I mean, Cornel West probably hurts Biden, maybe. I mean, I'm honestly dubious that any third party candidate, even if it were to be, say, an RFK Jr., can have much of an impact. I've said this before, but 1992 was the only time that really happened, and Ross Perot was in a unique situation where both the Republicans and the Democrats, Bush and Clinton, were both supporting neoliberal globalist policies, ramping up immigration, like all these things. And there was this big fat lane for Perot to run in. I don't see that for anybody today. I think the difference between Trump or DeSantis and Biden or Newsom, I mean, it's too stark. No one's going to look for a third option here.
Yeah, I hear you about Perot, but let me just throw this out there, and then we'll wrap it up. I think if it's a Manchin or a Hogan, they're actually more politically, ideologically aligned with Biden than with Trump. I don't think anyone's going to say, well, I was going to vote for Trump, but now that Larry Hogan's there, you know what I mean? I think it actually undermines Biden and it hurts that end of the ticket. But, well, we'll see. Thanks, David Marcus. Great stuff as always. Actually, stick around. I want to talk about the passing of Tony Bennett with you in just a moment here on O'Connor Tonight.